Welcome back, and thank you for not touching that remote, because this is a very pertinent discussion on domestic violence that several people in their homes must be facing or would have faced at some point or the other in their lives. There's also a conspiracy of silence. But here I have with me somebody who actually, if there's any day where I don't have to really introduce a guest, it's today. Jennifer Arul, well-known senior star television journalist who's with us, but she's in our studio in her capacity as a victim of domestic violence, a victim turned victor. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for coming in. Ashwin Kotnis, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Puliantop, he'll give us the khaki perspective to this whole enactment. We've got S. Madhusudan, who's an advocate and also General Secretary of the Protection to the Rights of Men. Now, whatever that is, we'll ask him in a very short while from now. Also joining us through our OB van is Sudha Ramalingam, well-known advocate and also National Vice President of PUCL. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. Jennifer, to you first. How difficult is it for you, a well-known television journalist, a celebrity, to move from the other side of the fence, from covering news to being the news yourself, from a transition from the newsroom to the courtroom?
Sanjay, it was extremely difficult because first of all you have to pluck up the courage to do this, and it was extremely difficult because when you're trying to hold a full-time job and you're trying to cover a story and then suddenly you become the story, it's very difficult. It takes all the courage that you can muster to actually stand up and say, I'm not going to stand for this. I refuse to accept this anymore. Because I think traditionally we Indian women, we tend to not stand up and be counted. And I think really that is our biggest problem.
Okay, that's well put. Madhusudan, we've heard of the phrase fence eating the crop. Explain to us, to our viewers, actually the rationale behind forming an outfit such as yours. Many would say it's protection for the aggressors. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, not like that, sir. See, most of the people feel that. See, women is only facing harassment again from the men, and it is very difficult for them to go before the court and all. But actually, if you go for the court, that is irrespective of sex, whether men or women, everybody is having some harassment over there. Okay, even if the women who are all giving complaint against their husbands, okay, see, most of the complaints are not exactly right. And most of the, around 90% of the complaints have been proved to be a false one.
But then there are women with injuries who suffer in silence. Are you trying to trivialize domestic violence in our country? Because we know the figures are there. That is why in 2005, after a lot of, in fact, a persistent struggle by activists, that you had this enactment in the first place. No. The matter is that as far as the Domestic Violence Act is concerned, see, it is totally unfair and totally biased against men. Give me two examples. Yeah, if you, I'll give you one this thing. See, if a female person, he is aged about above 18 years, if he was questioned by any male person, see, that male person has to be punished for a period of 1 year. See, if is that a new law that you have written yourself? No, it's in the Domestic Violence Act. Okay, which section? Any woman, which section? Above the age of 18 years. See, I'm not exactly on that. I think it is 12, section 12 of Domestic Violence Act. See, if she is above the age of 18 years, if he was questioned by any of the person, whether it is his father or brother, whatever it may be. See, if that woman comes after a period of after 12 o'clock in the midnight, see, if the same was questioned by the brother or father, it is only for the sake of that woman, for the welfare of the woman only he had been questioning that. Alright, it's not male chauvinism at one level. Okay, let's bring in Sudha Ramalingam, who is also an activist apart from being a well-known lawyer. Ma'am, the point Madhusudan is trying to make here is that there is misuse of, at least alleged misuse of provisions of legislation or like the Domestic Violence Act. There's also section 498A of the Indian Penal Code. Many say that elderly relatives, let's say parents of young men who are actually targeted by the police, asked to come to police stations at odd hours. Does the law have enough safeguards hemmed in to protect innocent men, or would you say that the term innocent men is an oxymoron?
Sanjay, first of all, let's understand that the Domestic Violence Act itself is civil in nature. Powers given to the magistrate to execute and to ensure that we get a remedy speedily. That's the only thing. Under the DV Act, you do not secure punishment like under 498A or Section 4 of the Dowry Prohibition Act. That's one thing. Secondly, let's also understand a knife can be misused, abused, fire can be misused and abused. Do you mean to say just because a law could be misused or there could be a false complaint under that particular law, the law itself should be thrown out like a baby with the bathwater?
Absolutely. Are you throwing the baby with the bathwater? I mean, the cliche, yes, but then there are several women who suffer in silence. more strength to women like Jennifer who dare to be different and to
that's what. Say whether it
to fight an arduous court battle.
Percentage of whether a woman or this thing highly suffering or men are highly suffering is not the matter here. Even the suffering men who has been very low while comparing the women.
How many wives beat the husbands?
No, see most
how many wives, answer the question, how many wives beat the husbands?
Around in my association, around I have 10,000 members as members in my association.
Who are beaten by the wives?
Yeah, no, not beaten by the wife. See, I have the men who are overall affected by the women's, around 10,000 members are there. See, most of them have been harassed by the women and around 50% of them have been beaten up by the women.
50% of,
yeah.
Okay. Mr. Ashwin Kotnes, do you get complaints about, he says 50% of men are being beaten by their wives and beaten by women. Is it oversimplification? Is he talking through his hat?
It obviously is. The society, our Indian society works in a different manner. What he may be alluding to is that there may be cases of false complaints or something, but I am sure that's such a minuscule percentage that it just has no justification for not having such a law in the first place. And any protection that can be given to a vulnerable section, and there is no doubt that women are a vulnerable section in the society, is welcome.
There can be no debate on that. Jennifer, again, for somebody, many would say who's well known, who has the connections, who's well networked in society. Many say that it's only at a lower strata that people actually suffer and they complain. But for you, it's actually ironical, because on the one hand you have the connections, you are well known. It must have been extremely difficult for you to come out in the open and talk about it, because usually people say that those who are in high positions don't want to talk about it because of the so-called social stigma.
That's exactly the point, Sanjay, because it is extremely humiliating to go into a court, to be standing there. You're standing out there with different kinds of people and you're waiting for your turn to go before that magistrate.
How long did your case take to be resolved?
My case took 2.5 years from the day I started, and I was told that according to the law it should take 60 days. But it just kept going on and on and on for various reasons. I mean, the judge kept changing, the magistrate kept changing, and I would wait endlessly. But the bottom line is, that's exactly the point. People of us, some certain type of people find it very hard to do this. And as I said before, it's extremely embarrassing to go there. And so I think a lot of women just continue to suffer, and we just sort of almost accept what is going on, and you don't believe that you have the right. And then you suddenly read about this Domestic Violence Act, you learn something about it, and you realize that I'm going to give it a try. Let me see what can happen. And I can tell you that when I started, a lot of people said, don't even waste your time. You are going to waste your life fighting this case.
You proved them all wrong today.
Well, yes, but it did take 2.5 years of intense patience. And I need to say right here that the very first people I encountered, apart from the council and the team of lawyers, were the protection officer at the Department of Social Welfare in the Tamil Nadu government, and they were absolutely superb, because they are the ones who took my case to the court. But there again, you have to go up there, you have to bare your soul, and if you're a private person and you feel ashamed to do this, and I think that's what I'd like to say on this show, that don't be ashamed. It doesn't matter. Go up there.
You're a victim after all. It's not your fault.
You are a victim.
It's not your fault. Mr. Ashwin Kotnes, again, as any third party, according to the Act, any third party can actually bring it to the notice of the police. Let's say if you hear some noise from your neighbor's home, for instance, you can actually inform the police, and there's also protection given to informants. Do you get many complaints from these quarters, or do you believe that there's a conspiracy of silence? People know something is happening in your backyard, but you don't want to talk about it.
See, there are a lot of NGOs which work through work with the police. There is all one police station system in Tamil Nadu, where in every all one police station you will have some NGOs empaneled with the AWPS. They are supposed to go out to villages, in cities, maybe to the habitations, and take complaints. And the whole purpose is that not that you need to come to the police station, but maybe the police will come to your doorstep, and if you're not able to even get through that, you can get through the NGOs.
That's an ideal situation, sir, but I must ask, there are a lot of marriages that are solemnized in police stations, also counseling sessions that sometimes take place in police stations. But how sensitive are your officers down the line? I'm not talking about senior officers like yourself, I'm talking about at the cutting edge of the department, the station house officer, the inspector. There are cases where complainants are sometimes harassed across the country, not just here, where they are told to adjust, go back and adjust with your husband, yes or no?
It's true. I'll tell you how the system works, how the society works. A lot of times somebody will come to you and give a complaint, and then her relatives will come and say, pressurize her, no, you try to compromise, don't break a marriage, don't break a marriage. the law does not permit you that kind of leeway. But the society, there are societal pressures which work outside the system. If you go to a court and say I did not register a case because I did not want to break a family, it will not cut ties. But there is a system which works outside. So what you are saying alludes to that there is a possibility that pressure comes and you don't register a complaint immediately or something. But as far as we are concerned, as far as the higher police officers are concerned,
tolerance.
We say you register an offence first. You need not register, you need not arrest.
You may later on withdraw it.
Arrest is a discretion.
Okay.
Arrest is a discretion, even if some kind of a cognizable offence is associated with it. Maybe you would want to wait, but don't stop in registering the offence. You first register offence, because that gives that woman whoever's come to you, she's taken a lot of courage to come to you in the first place. I don't know how she did it, but I'm sure that you run over these things in your mind thousands of times before you're able to go out first time. And we know that. We know it works that way. And then to come here and then again getting dejected would not be right. So
that's a very interesting point you're making. That's a sensitive officer speaking there. Jennifer, again, I go back to what I said in my introduction. The usual refrain that, what will society think? What will happen to my unmarried daughter or sister or granddaughter? These are practical considerations that weigh on people's minds before they go out to complain, and many men get away because of this.
Absolutely, Sanjay, because you are embarrassed, as I said, you are humiliated. How can I do this? What will the neighbors say? What will everybody else say? People, even now people say, oh, we didn't know that you did this. We didn't know you were going through this hell. And I remember, I see the point here. I do remember that the first time I went before the protection officer, I actually broke down because I was so upset that I had been reduced, and I don't use the word lightly, I had been reduced to actually sitting in front of somebody who was a total stranger to me, and I'm bearing my soul and telling them some of the details that I would never ever have shared with anybody. And yet I had to do that, and I knew that if I wanted to look for justice, if there was even the slightest chance of getting any justice, I was going to have to go this path.
Madhusudan, don't you sense the pain in her voice?
No, that's what. See, I want to make a thing here.
Don't you sense the pain in her voice?
Yeah, of course.
There are genuine complaints.
It's terrible to do
There are
this.
genuine complainants, and there are probably a small section of people who misuse the law. But by and large, don't you say that?
They say this is not the right thing. See. Around 85% of the case has been acquitted. The complaint which was given by the women, around 85% of the cases have been acquitted. If you see,
Mrs. Sudha Ramlingam, ma'am, as somebody who works with victims, as an activist, Madhusudan on our show says 85% of the cases end in acquittal. Do you contest this, ma'am?
I'm sorry about this. Yeah, I do contest this. There are two or three things that you'll have to really think about it definitely now. See, DV Act, I keep repeating, is only a civil law. There is no question of acquittal in a civil law. It is a matter where you are either given an order or it could be dismissed. One. Secondly, in most of the cases where he says it is acquittal, it would have ended in actually a compromise. Even under 498A and Section 4 of the Dowry Prohibition Act, where offences of non-compoundable nature are made out. Still, the High Court and the Supreme Court have repeatedly allowed compounding of these offences because these are all matrimonial offences. So most of the cases eventually end up by a compromise wherein there would be an amicable settlement because the woman is pushed to a corner and made to accept a pittance and withdraw the case because she cannot really fight these cases for years together.
You don't agree,
so this is not
no, sir.
a case
I'll tell you one thing.
No, compromise, so
he
therefore
gets an
acquittal.
Most of the complaint which was given by the women has been given only for the sake of getting money and grabbing money from the husbands. See, that is the reason why most of the complaints have been given. And
but if she doesn't have any money, how is she supposed to live?
If she had suffered or she had been harassed by the woman, why she has to go for getting money and to compromise the matter?
Yeah, sure.
Is he not having faith in the judiciary that would a judge give favor to a woman and give money to her because the complaint has been lodged?
498A is concerned, it is a compoundable one. See, if the amount which has been received as a dowry, it has been returned back, the section can be compounded before the court of law. See, most of the women giving a false complaint before police station.
Are you making a sweeping generalization here on the show? That we say most of the women, because most viewers must be like quite red in the face to hear that. They must be thinking, what is this guy talking? Because most of the women suffer in silence. That's a public perception. Correct me if I'm wrong.
What I want to say is that most of the complaint which was given is not 100% right. See, they have been here and there, they have been adding something, and here and there they have been making some allegation against the husband.
Will not the judge be or the magistrate be able to figure that out, whether I'm speaking the truth or not?
That is the matter.
All right, let me
80% of the cases.
Let me take off from there and bring in Sudha Ramlingam here. Let me take off from your point.
Yes.
Ma'am, he's talking not just about domestic violence. We are sort of digressing a bit, but yes, we'll permit that on the show. There are certain provisions of law which actually, you know, make a departure from the fundamental canons of criminal jurisprudence, where mens rea, where intention is really important and not impact. But there are certain provisions of law which actually turn this fundamental canon of criminal jurisprudence on its head, where you focus more on impact rather than intention.
You're right, presumption is shifted and the burden of proof is shifted. These are all, despite the shifting, these are all only at the preliminary stage. But when it comes to trial, definitely the standards made applicable in a court of law are stringent and no one gets convicted or acquitted just like that without evidence. Okay, so and another thing we'll have to bear in mind is, as far as the DV Act is concerned, DV Act is to provide women with a secure residence, some amount of maintenance, and also ensure she gets some interim relief immediately. And as Jennifer rightly put it, it has to be decided within 60 days, but it takes years together, at least 2 to 2.5 years.
The trial itself is a punishment here.
A law being there. Actually it is not a punishable offence. Here is.
No, I'm talking about the trial itself is a punishment for the victim who goes to court.
Yes, the entire process of proceeding in you should also understand, under the Domestic Violence Act you don't go to the police. Even if you prefer a complaint to the police station, the police immediately asks you go to the service provider or go to the protection officer. So it is actually a civil jurisdiction given a criminal color for the execution of the same. Kindly make these men who start talking about Save Indian Family or women preferring false complaints to look at these laws and ensure that their women in their households, their mothers, their sisters do not get affected. They are only thinking about wives preferring complaints. They don't think about their sisters suffering. They don't think about their mothers suffering.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Sudha is saying, because she's talking about something that should be finished in 60 days, and then in this 2.5-year period, at every point of time, you're thinking, should I back off? How long more? How many more years? I'm suffering. I have this problem. It shakes your faith in the system.
Yes, Madhusan.
See, as far as procedure of this Domestic Violence Act is concerned, if once a complaint had been given before the domestic violence officer, she don't have any thing to close the complaint. Whether it is right or not, the complaint is the right one or not, that is not there. They will only ask the women whether we can proceed with this, we can close this case, or we'll send this before the police
station. As simple as that.
No, but they also call the husband before the protection officer.
They'll call the husband.
Yes.
They'll take the statement of that husband without considering anything about the statement. They'll directly send the matter to the court only on the complaint given by the women.
See, Madhusan, I must ask you here, this, when you spoke about women, you also insinuated that many women use the act to blackmail their husbands, right?
Yes, exactly.
But then, cruelty is not just of a physical nature. There's something called economic abuse, which the Act recognizes and makes that also, mental cruelty, yes.
Economical
which is applicable in her case. There's a landmark Tarun Batra case to the Supreme Court, and now there's a landmark Jennifer Arul case, yes.
Sir, see, economical aspect is concerned, it is not only based on this thing, men. Men alone cannot earn everything from from the society. Women are also earning, and they are also having some wealth over them. See, if they are having the wealth, why they should...
There's a concept of a shared household, sir. The shared household that the man is duty bound to provide, whether it's a rented place or whether it's an own place, duty bound to provide.
See, that's what I am telling. If in that Domestic Violence Act, it has the provision that the husband has to share the place where he is living with the wife. See, if he has a house with only one room, the husband has to provide the house to the wife, and he has to go out of the house. See, where should he live?
To remain a bachelor then.
Yeah, that's
why get married and harass somebody.
See, that is different there. See, if a woman want to live with the husband, she don't have to asking the men to go outside. Okay, the thing which being in the act itself shows the women to harass the men. See, throwing away the men from his house and making the woman to be there.
I don't
See,
agree. Is it possible for the woman to throw the husband out of the
that is
house?
what,
I must-
with the help of the court. That's what I'm telling.
Let me bring in
As
Sudha
far as-
Ramlingam here.
Yeah,
One second.
okay.
Sudha
You can
Ramlingam,
ask
ma'am.
Please.
In fact, you hear many stories, you know, in households where the husband yells at the wife, "I'll throw you out of my house. This is not your house." So even during the process
Sanjay, we
of
should-
filing a complaint, when the case is being heard in court, there's a lot of pressure. There's intimidation that's brought to bear on the victim, on the complainant. By taking away, sometimes they try to sell off jewels, other things, make life miserable for her to live there, you know, in the hope that she would give up. This is a fact, and this is
Sanjay, I
what
would
the
like to
DV Act has
first of
also
all
taken
tell-
note of. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would like to first of all impress on you that the woman is the one who suffers totally because she is not given an alternate accommodation at all. If a woman wants to go and take another house anywhere else, if she is removed from her residence, what happens? She is asked, where is your husband, where is your father, where is everyone else? Then she'll have to find a male protector to even get one rented apartment. Even if she wants to go to a working woman's hostel, she needs a husband's signature, and most often than
That
not.
is a
It's
very
a
valid
man's
point,
world
Madhusudan.
here. So
These things
that
can
is
be
why we have
considered
to ensure
only if the husband has right wealth, to provide the woman to his wife. See, if the husband is very poor and he is not having such a wealth to provide everything to the woman,
We're talking about isolated cases, right? We're talking about isolated cases.
No,
here.
the
Whether
act
he's
itself,
poor
that's what
or
I'm
rich,
telling.
it doesn't make a
See,
difference.
if he is not able to do so, he has to be go
You
before.
know, many husbands also go around in luxury cars and all that, right?
that's-
Husband
see,
is
it doesn't
poor, the
make a
wife is still
difference.
poorer. It's not that he's married. If a husband is poor,
He's
you
the
say,
husband.
the wife would be still poorer. What is she going to do? Where does she go?
See, if she don't want to live with the husband, she might have lived with their parents itself. She don't want to throw husband from his house.
She has a right. She has a conjugal right.
Yes.
She says.
That's what. Sir, see, if she want to have that conjugal right, she don't need to go for complaint, and she don't need to
No,
ask.
why
the
not?
husband.
It's a legal right to complain if she is being harassed.
Absolutely.
See,
That is her right.
See, that's what. If a man.
Are you
Yeah,
advocating?
I'll tell you, as far as-
Are you one of those typical male
I-
chauvinists who say, no matter
I'll
what
just-
the husband
I'll-
does,
I'll-
I
I'll
will
tell you
grin
what-
and bear it,
I'll
I will
tell
lump
you-
it.
You know, the
Sir, I'll
number
tell you
of-
one thing.
Number of
Yeah.
burning
Yes, sir.
incidents that take place till today.
Conveniently
as of
after,
today, 304
conveniently after the
days.
marriage, a gas stove bursts.
I know. I mean, look at the way it's happening. Are you saying? I mean, how many husbands are getting? But I mean, we have to agree at some point of time. The system is skewed against the women, and the law is trying to correct that a little bit. Even then, you know, what he's saying is, if he says that there is a system of false complaint, it can be corrected at the stage of the protection officer itself. He finds that the
It's open to you to file a malicious prosecution
and
complaint
even then
later
the
on.
process is
That-
only initiated. The
So
process
that
then
is-
goes
that's
to
what I'm
court. Then you have to
telling.
prove in the court of law. It's not that it's happening at the, you know, it's not an extrajudicial system. It's going through the entire process. The husband gets a chance to project his point of view. The lady gets to project her point of view, and then the magistrate decides. It does not happen in a day or two. That's why it's
After
taken a 2.5
appreciating
years.
evidence. After
That's why-
appreciating evidence,
correct.
you have an order.
See, as far as Domestic Violence Act is concerned, see, they will not go.
What is
they
the
will not-
fundamental problem with the domestic? I'm a little,
See,
surprised to hear that. But what I'm
Sir,
willing to
most-
hear you out on the show.
most of
What
the
is your
sec-
fundamental
see,
problem
most-
with Domestic
most
Violence
of-
Act?
Most of the provisions, which is totally unfair and which is against this bias against men. That is the matter there. See, that's what I have given you the two examples, wherein if a person has only one house with a single room, he has to go outside. He has to give his the house to the wife, and he has to.
So the antidote lies in not ill-treating your wife.
But in any case, what I
No, no,
say
no,
is
it's
that,
not-
I'm sorry Sanjay, I think that it's time that we had this domestic
So she
violence
can
act.
accept
It
to
started
live
in
in-
2005. It's about time. Overseas, abroad, even if you have a divorce, it's a 50% down the center. Here you don't even know if you go for a divorce whether you're going to get 10,000 rupees, whether you're going to get 10,000, whether you're going to get 10 lakhs, you don't know. Abroad, you cannot have that. You will get divided down the middle. No,
see,
so I think we
actually,
need this domestic
DVC,
violence
see,
act.
actually, we have other provision under the Criminal Procedure Code 125 CRPC. We have we can go for maintenance.
How long
before
does
the
it
family
take?
court.
How long does it take?
See, that's what.
It's a protracted
Within a-
protracted
no,
trial.
not like this. Within a period of 90 days.
Within a period of 60 days, this was
So
supposed to
that
be
is in
resolved.
the DVC, Domestic Violence Act. Within
Yeah,
a period of 90 days.
So that's all. It's all very
No, that's
fine.
what
The
it
law
all-
is.
See, it is the main. Already there is a provision for maintenance of women. Okay, already there is a provision for getting maintenance from the husband by the wife. Why they have been enacting other law and making the husband to
So you
suffer?
don't want the
See, on
Domestic
both,
Violence
see, most
Act
of the women who want to harass the husband, they'll file two cases. See, I have many cases with me being an advocate. I have many of
What are the
such kind
cases?
of
Domestic violence
That's
act?
what in domestic violence.
498.
Yeah, 498 domestic. They will not leave any provisions, sir. They will not leave any of the this thing section which is required this thing for them. They will give every complaint. They will give every complaint before the police station, domestic violence court.
No, but is it easy to actually, the point that you raised at the beginning, is it easy for a woman to actually keep filing complaints? Is it something that she would like, any woman would want to do?
So that's what I'm
It's usually
telling.
the last resort,
See,
isn't it?
as far as procedure is concerned, nothing is tough. See, they'll
is tough. It's
yeah, of
very
course.
tough,
they'll-
sir.
See, that's
I'm
what I'm
sorry,
telling.
it's very
see,
tough.
See, woman is this
You're
thing-
saying all vexatious cases?
See, most of the cases are vexatious.
No.
I'm not saying it, this thing telling everything. Most of the cases are vexatious. Some of them they have this thing, some of the real things.
Okay.
But most of the cases are vexatious. See, as far as Domestic Violence Act and then this 498 this thing, everything is concerned. See, domestic violence, as I said earlier, if they give a complaint, they'll ask the husband to come over, this thing, come there and give statement before the domestic violence officer. Even if she finds that the complaint which was given by the wife is a wrong one, she cannot this thing, reject the complaint.
But aren't you aware of several cases?
That's what most
Several
of,
cases where the men come home drunk and beat the wives, where the men make the wives work and live off their earnings.
Sorry, here,
Wh-
see,
which
what-
century
what-
are
what-
we
what-
living in here?
Sir, that, see, we are not on that aspect.
No,
sir.
but that's
See,
a rampant
these are all-
social
see,
evil
these
in our
are all
country.
the things which have been happening. Okay, for that, we can file a complaint before the police station itself. We don't need to go before this thing, domestic violence officer. And see,
Because
these
the
kinds of-
existing, correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am, Sudha Rambalingam, because the existing mechanism has not worked, you've actually had to have the Domestic Violence Act, yes?
Exactly, exactly. If the existing mechanism does not provide any interim shelter, it does not provide any interim protection, it does not really give her any remedy as such in a time-bound manner. That is the reason why we women's activists had to fight for this particular act itself. DV Act itself is only a result of long pending demand, and this is an act which is available to, the remedies are available in foreign countries. In the West, all these remedies have been available for decades together. It's only now, and in a country where the woman is deprived of shelter if she is a spinster or a deserted woman. It's all the more important that right to residence becomes even fundamental right for the woman, and you can also understand, and we also know, it's common knowledge that the man can even sleep on the platform. The woman cannot do that. So it is essential, and any man who
See,
But
Right.
that's an
Is
important
the-
point she's making. I'll tell you why. There are many men who don't want their wives to work for whatever reason. And finally, when something goes wrong for them,
Yes.
thank God she had a job. If something goes wrong for them, how do they fend for themselves then? So
See,
therefore, they need
here-
this maintenance.
Here we are not on that aspect where the husband has everything to himself,
You're
and
talking
he can
about,
give. Yeah,
you're
that's what.
talking about the very poor husbands
Yeah, of
who
course.
have. Okay.
See, most of the people who are all suffering here, see, many of them were not this thing being in the upper side. Upper class people who can this thing live by themselves, they'll not come before the court and all. They'll directly give them this is the matter. This is what you want. That's what they'll
don't
settle
waste
the
money
matter.
don't waste money drinking away till the cows come home. That's that's probably a solution. Ashwin Kottas, I want to ask you, Ashwin, most people before they complain, they are a little scared of reprisal. What will happen if we complain? It's one thing for the law to have a provision where informants can actually, where a third party can actually take suo motu action, inform the police, inform the authorities, galvanize the law into action. But on the ground, the fear of reprisal, if the guy is picked up by the police tomorrow, if it's a proactive police department like it is right now, if the offender is picked up and arrested, he's out on bail. When he comes out on bail, now an ordinary citizen doesn't have Z plus security. What happens then? There are several women who would like to complain, but this is what stops them from complaining. I'm talking even about domestic violence of a very physical nature.
Unfortunately, our law does not provide for any witness protection.
There's no witness protection program in India, yes.
Correct. And also, if an accused gets a bail out and he comes out and he's actually, we cannot provide protection to every complainant.
You can cancel his bail, but the damage is done.
Correct, but we can cancel bail, we can oppose bail, but at some point of time he is going to get bail for any offence. At some point of time he is going to get bail. If he comes out and is able to do something, we cannot provide protection to every complainant. It is a problem. I understand what you are saying. A lot of women do feel threatened, but that is where they have to stand strong. They have to have some kind of.
Not everyone will have Ashwin Kottas's number on their speed dial.
No, but we are trying that way, generally in the Tamil Nadu at least we have a culture of telling our numbers over newspapers. We generally print it. I mean, if you go to Chennai city today,
So you should watch NDTV Hindu. You have a Know Your Cop series which Salim is doing.
Correct. Everywhere that too. But otherwise we have that system. I understand what you're saying, that complainants don't have that protection. Unfortunately, that's what I'm saying. Even after that, going through all these things, then they come to complain and then they get a justice, and some gentleman says that the system is not right and it's skewed against men. And I think it's out of place.
But I must say, Sanjay, that I found that the police who helped me were extremely efficient, and the way they handled the whole thing, it was really remarkable. They were professional and they were efficient. And I think at the end of the day, if as a woman you feel that, okay, I can call somebody to help me, I can call 100, they will come. I think that's the biggest consolation for a woman, because when you're out there and you're on your own and there is nobody to protect you, you might have no man around you, and you're
Maybe
on your
the men
own.
can also call 100 if they are
What you
beaten
going
by
to
their
do?
wives.
In this,
See, that is in our Indian society, men will feel that this thing, they will feel shy to say that this thing, his wife is beating them.
But are you
That is
really
the
serious?
problem.
Really
Are you really
think that
serious when you're saying a
happens?
majority?
That is-
No,
that is
are
the
you really
problem.
serious? You've been saying this constantly on our show. Are you really serious when you say that a
Yeah, yeah, of
majority
course.
of men are beaten by their wives?
Not majority of men.
That's what you said at the outset.
50% of the men.
50%.
I think I don't
Are
think
you
that's
are you beaten by a wife?
No, I am not married.
Okay,
Then-
okay,
okay.
okay. I won't go to the
Then after
reasons.
he's married,
No,
let's ask.
but Jennifer, I mean, the several tiers of judicial
Yes.
wisdom that a case would have to pass through. The process of appeal, does it in any way sort of negate the relief that one gets?
Yes, it does, because you are so nervous when you start. When you start off with a great deal of hope and say, oh, 60 days, this is going to be over and maybe my life's going to turn around. And then suddenly it goes on and on and on. I'm not even going into the reasons why it went on and on and on. But suddenly at the end of 2.5 years, I mean, I had 3 magistrates within this period. And finally, when I did get the current magistrate who passed the orders, I mean, it was just fantastic. I mean, to think that finally somebody was understanding. Otherwise, every time it changed, we had to go back to square one and start off all over again. And that is so humiliating. It's so traumatic for a woman. I can understand now when I look back why women think twice before they go in for this. I would still say that you go ahead. Don't be afraid. This law is for us. It's for us women. It's to protect us.
He's saying it's too draconian and should be scrapped.
I don't agree with him at
Sir,
all.
I'll tell you one thing. See, being in the witness side, they have been feeling that they have been embarrassed and they have been humiliated.
Of course.
See, being in the accused side, how male people will feel.
Then please
See,
don't
being in
commit,
the witness
don't
side,
commit
being
domestic
in the
violence.
witness side
then.
itself, they have been feeling that they have been much embarrassed and they have been much humiliated.
All right.
And being in the accused side, how they will feel.
We,
So
we
what-
completely, we've given you, we are completely running out of time, but final comments from all our panelists here, starting with Sudha Ramalingam, who's been waiting patiently for us to begin. Ma'am, your final words to women who face domestic violence wherever.
I would tell that people will have to really fight for the truth and for the just causes. Kindly do not prefer any false complaint, and if only men are going to be really affectionate, are not going to make marriage a consumerist commodity, then I'm definite DB Act will only be or remain on books as a protection for women and would not be charging men as such, and they need not be afraid of any false cases if only they are going to be honest. And women, I'm definite, are not filing false cases. They are really suffering a lot, coming out in the open to the courts only after years and years of violence. They do not just jump within days of any problem.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. Ashwin Kutnis, also, no offense meant to the bureaucracy, but many years ago a magazine reported that in a training academy, the probationers who were interviewed said they would settle for nothing less than 1 crore as dowry because they had passed through a rigorous exam. And after that training, these same officers would probably sit in anti-dowry cells. Is this again, a sweeping generalization?
I do really think it is, because
You heard of this?
Of course I have, but it may be happening in certain communities. It's maybe an accepted part in certain communities. It does not happen where I come from. My wife is a chartered accountant. She's a it does not happen in every community, not in every place. The things, these kind of things tend to
get blown out of proportion by us in the media, and yes, I was waiting for that to
It
come.
might have happened in one case, but I don't know any of my batchmates who.
But now, what would you tell to victims of domestic violence, whether they are men or women? Let's be fair.
her victory, I think, it's just come out and complain. I do understand the difficulties, but unless they come out and
that's
complain,
the takeaway
the law
from Jennifer's case.
Set into motion. And unless you set that into motion, the system will not set. Everything takes time. Everything, it's come out now. I mean, Sati was a system at one point of time. It was accepted. It was happening. And then to break it, they had to really do agitation. They had to be really this thing, and it changed. And these kind of things, it will change. It takes time. We are in the transition phase. It's just come out. And victories like this will encourage other women to come out, and
it will embolden others. Yes, Madhusudan, what would you like to say to men who get the wrong end of the stick?
See, that's what as I've already said, most of the complaints are this false.
How many members in your association?
Around I have 10,000 members.
10,000.
Yes, of course.
From across the country.
Yeah, no, in Tamil Nadu itself.
Okay.
So we don't have any branches in other states. So in Tamil Nadu itself, we have around 10,000 members, and most of the members who came to us, they have been totally embarrassed. They have been harassed by the women, and they have been totally grabbed by the women. Their wealth have been totally grabbed by the women. See, that is the reason why they have been coming to us. And further, as far as this Domestic Violence Act is concerned, it is totally against women, against men, and it is totally biased against men. Where see, it has there are few chances wherein women oral, there is a chance of women oral harassed by the men, and they have been.
There's a chance.
Yeah, of course.
Very slim chance, you would say.
There is a chance.
Okay.
But still, see, most of the provision which is being there, it is mostly used for it is mostly used falsely by the women. They have been taking the chance with that.
All right, you're saying that a majority of men are harassed by women.
Yes.
It's the other way around, and there's a very slim chance
Yes,
that women are harassed, and you don't need the domestic violence.
For that, we don't need this Domestic Violence Act. We have other provisions there. See, they can file a complaint before the police.
I hope you won't also say that we don't need police stations.
No. See, we don't need that all-women police station. That is you
don't need all women police stations. All right, okay.
We just
you want to quickly respond to that? You don't need all women police stations.
I'm speechless.
All right. Silence is eloquent. Silence is eloquent in this case.
The reason behind that, I'll tell you that. See, a woman cannot be questioned by the male police official, but men who have been going to the police, all-women police station, they have been treated like a street dogs. That is the reason why we feel that we don't need that all-women police station and all.
The entire process is that women feel comfortable
coming to, even if they are women police.
They should feel comfortable complaining to somebody. That's the system of.
Yeah, but I guess the point is well taken in sense. Yeah, you need to sensitize perhaps officers and people at the cutting edge as well.
But the other thing is that, sir, see, if a woman goes to a police station, something like all-women police station, if the husband has been brought to the police station and he had been inquired, see, that itself gives some bad impression about the woman in the mind of the husband. That is the most of the people who are all coming to us.
We shouldn't perpetuate stereotypes on this show. But thank you very much, Madhusudan, for joining us. We respect your views as well, which is why we invited you on the show. We wanted to make this a balanced debate. Thank you very much, Ashwin Kutnis. I know it's been a tiring day for you. You've come all the way from Puliyanthop's the other end of town to our studio here in Perungudi. Jennifer, I mean, hats off to you. More strength to women like you. And we congratulate you on your victory. And perhaps the takeaway from this discussion, Jennifer, is that women who face violence should stand up and be counted, and your case will embolden others.
Right, and I think, Sanjay, that what the point you need to make here is that this Domestic Violence Act is a fantastic act. It's for us women to make use of it. And domestic violence doesn't necessarily mean getting thrashed every day of your life. It's economic violence and the other types of violence that you were talking about. Mental cruelty, that's a major thing. What is the price you can put upon a woman who's suffered mental cruelty for many years of her life?
All right,
I think that's the point.
Absolutely. The physical injuries may heal, but the scars, the psychological scars may never really heal. That's all the time we have for on this very special discussion on domestic violence. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to NDTV Hindu.